The software has three solution modes. If we go to solve, we can do tower verification. We discussed that in another video. There's a design mode that will help you to size a cooling tower, and then there's the performance curve solution mode. Now the performance curve solution mode is just an extended version of the verify mode. So all the inputs are relevant in the verify and performance curves modes. You have to put in the atmospheric conditions, the dimensions, operating conditions, all the transfer areas, the pressure losses, the fan, if you want to specify a fan, if you don't specify the airflow rate explicitly, all the solution controls, and then on the solve tab, you have to select performance curves if you want to calculate performance curves. When you select performance curves, the inputs in the performance curve settings block are of relevance. So as is usually the case when you calculate performance curves, you change the air inlet wet bulb temperature. You can specify it from a starting point, specify an interval, and to the point where you want to calculate it. And the water inlet temperature, the starting water inlet temperature here is 25. You can select an interval and you can select the endpoint. The wet bulb temperature specified here, this is the design point, and that will also be shown on the performance curve. But if you select under solve, you can change the wet bulb temperature from 15 all the way to 30 in this example, and just make sure that this maximum wet bulb temperature here must be below the temperature of the air, which in this case is 33.5. If it's exactly the same, the wet bulb temperature as this, the air will be saturated with water vapor, and the wet bulb temperature therefore cannot be more than the temperature given in this block. Then you can also change the water inlet temperature, and this will override whatever is in the operating conditions tab. So this is the design water inlet temperature that will also be displayed on the performance curves if you want it to be displayed. But it will run it through this loop and through this loop. So in this case, there's 16 different temperatures that you've selected, and here's 26 different temperatures, and it will run through all of these loops. So it will do the calculation, finding a solution for 400 cases. This is the output table of all the cases that are calculated. This will only show up after you've run the analysis, but I've already done that, and this is just to show you how that looks like, and the graphical output will be shown in this tab. So if I selected performance curves, I've inputted all the different inputs for the cooling tower. I can hit solve. After I've hit solve, you can go to the info tab. You'll see that the other output tabs that are displayed for the verification solution mode, they will disappear, and only the info tab will remain. The input check will be visible, and no iteration data will be displayed. It will only show you the progress of the 400 cases that are solved in this example, and it will also give you the elapsed time up to that percentage progress, and it will round the minute off to the closest minute. In this case, to run the 400 analyses, it took 17 minutes, approximately 17 minutes, and then solution ended, and then the solution status will be green. After the solution status turned green, you can go to the solution setup, and it will also give you some outputs. So for all the cases that ran, it will give you the range, the outlet water temperature, the water evaporation, the evaporation percentage as a percentage of the inlet water temperature, and also the cooling duty in megawatts. Now all of this is displayed in the graphical output tab. So if you click on graphical output, it will show you the performance curve, and this is relatively busy, but you can change the way it looks like by changing the settings in the performance curve settings input area. You can select which variables to show on the performance curve by selecting or deselecting these checkboxes. So this is the cooling range, the water outlet temperature, the cooling duty, and the water evaporation rate. You can also select to show a grid and the design point. The design point is the water inlet temperature and wet bulb temperature that you've selected here on the atmosphere for the wet bulb temperature. That's your design point of the cooling tower. And then under operating conditions, here's the water inlet temperature. If you go to solve again and look at the graphical output for the performance curves, so let's deselect the cooling duty and the evaporation rate. We can click plot again, and it will remove the duty and the evaporation rate, and you can see the performance curve for those. Then you can also change the lines, the color and the type of line. So if we want to make the other line also black, we can select that, plot that, and you can see that those blue lines change to black. If we want to remove the original design point, we can select that one, deselect it, click plot again, and you can see it will disappear momentarily. It is interesting to note that the cooling range for some input conditions can be 0. And if we click on the evaporation rate, if we click plot again, you can see that even the water evaporation is 0 and it can go negative. So the software can also be used as an air cooler or a bulk air cooler, where the air is not cooling the water, but if you've got cold water, the cold water can cool the air. If you hover your mouse on the top right corner of the figure, these icons will pop up, and you can either click on the disk there to save it. You can also copy it as an image, and you can copy it into a document, or you can copy it as a vector graphic. You can also scroll over the figure and use your mouse to scroll, and you can zoom in or out using that. If you're not happy with that, you can just click on the home button there, the home and restore view, and it will go back to the original view. So there's a lot of things you can do to change what you see, the line types, the line colors, and all the different variables that you can select here. So just as an example, if you want to include the design point, click on design, click on plot, and it will enter the design point for you. Unfortunately for the design point, you cannot change the colors, but for all the rest, you can change the line type and colors.